It is time for Art in the AM. Good morning. I am doing a series during 2026 that I am calling the ABCs of Art. Today we're on the letter F, and I will tell you what the letter F, if you read the description in this video, you'll see already what that is. But I am doing just a little exercise in this journal that I'm using, which is a watercolor journal, although I haven't used watercolors yet. And it is 140-pound weight paper, which really will accept any kind of medium that I'm doing. And it's just like a nice size, like a 5.5 by 8.5, to just kind of try things, to sample things, to like work out ideas. And what I've been doing every week, I left the first page blank to do kind of like a index, is what you call it, at the beginning of the, where you have listed like what's in table of contents. Is it an index or a table of contents? One of them's at the front. I think that's the table of contents. Maybe the index is in the back. Maybe the index is if it's a different type of book. I don't know. I left this first page blank so that I can write the words that I'm doing inside. So I have done the letter A for art. This one was B for blending, and I realized that my little card that I stuck on there has not stuck on, so I need to attach that a little bit better. But this was a really fun one where I showed blending. If you are wanting to see any of these past videos, the easiest way to see those is on my YouTube channel. If you are not subscribing over there, I have put them all into a playlist for you to be able to go back and watch all of them really easily. Just put YouTube in the comments here, and I will make sure if you're watching it now live on Facebook, and I'll make sure that you have that link to go subscribe over to my YouTube channel. For the letter C, I did a color wheel, which had 16 spaces instead of the 12 that I thought it was going to have, and kind of showed some color mixing. For the letter D, I showed how to draw this image here using a grid method. So that is really helpful to be able to draw anything that is sitting in front of you if you missed that one. Last week, I did not finish this one. I was doing a value scale from white to black and using an ebony pencil. So for the letter E, it was an ebony pencil. I haven't finished this one yet. The next one, for this one, I am going to do facial proportions. And I will tell you, I had a different word picked out for today. Tell me if you would like the index at the beginning of the book of all of the words, because I plan on doing the entire year in this book. I think that there's enough pages for me to do the whole year. And I have a list of all of the words. But today I actually had a different word. And when I started doing a challenge for myself in 2026, it was all about doing portraits. I really wanted to challenge myself because I've told myself for so many years that portraits, faces, were hard. Have you told yourself that too? Like, I've told myself that a lot. And I thought, if I'm going to get better, I need to challenge myself to do a portrait. And I took on the challenge of doing a portrait every day. Now it is day 40 today, and I haven't done a portrait today yet. So we'll just say day 39, and I have done 30. So I've missed 9 days. However, I've done 30. I've done 30 portraits, and that's more than I had done in the past. So I am keeping up that consistency. And when I started posting those, I had no idea it was really to hold myself accountable that I was doing this challenge. I started having people ask questions like, how are you doing these? What are you doing them in? What are the pictures that you're using? What materials are you using? Like all of these different questions. And I will tell you a little bit more about me processing that. But today I decided to show you facial proportions to kind of tie into that challenge that I've been doing. So tell me in the comments while I'm getting this set up here. And just so you know, I'm going to be doing this upside down this morning because that way you can be able to see it. I'll turn my camera around and everything. Tell me if you feel like faces are hard. and you've told yourself that they are hard to draw, they are hard to paint, I can't do them. Like I've said that to myself probably a couple of, like I would never be able to do that portrait, right? Looking at a particular complex, more challenging portrait, and I've told myself, yeah, I could never do that. Like I've definitely said that to myself. Well, if you saw a post the other day, I posted about true or false, does art have rules? And I got so many interesting comments. Some just true, false. And some really explained, well, yes, there are rules, but you need to learn the rules so that you can break the rules, so you can be creative. And there were just all kinds of just explanations about the true or the false. Kathy says, yes, faces are hard. They are hard. I like to say challenging. Hard, when I put that in my head, it makes me feel like I will resist from trying it. Whereas if I say it's a challenge, then if I have the right mindset, I want to take on the challenge so that I can get better. And that's kind of what I decided to start doing with the portraits. But I lost my train of thought there. The portraits that I started doing and the facial proportions, and the art having rules. There are rules to facial proportions. Now, that does not mean that you can't break them, but if you want to be better at doing faces, drawing faces, painting faces, doing portraits, any of those, there are some rules. I like to call them guidelines. Let's just call them guidelines. There are some guidelines about how to do that. And that's what I want to show you today, are those guidelines that I'm going to be going into more detail about. And I will tell you a little bit about that. So I have my paper here, and I just have a pencil. And I found, well, I'll tell you where I got this portrait. I'm going to be using a portrait. I'm going to be using a reference. And that is what I would suggest until you get better. Like I'm on day 30, I'm still using reference. There have been a couple that I haven't used references. I'm still using references. Now that might mean that I take part from this one and part from this, and I use multiple different references, which I've done that. But for today, I'm going to be using a reference, and I took this photo of myself and I put it into some kind of filter. It was some kind of filter. I could not even probably tell you exactly where it was. So this is the portrait that I'm going to be using. The blue eyes, or that's like about the only thing. I don't know. Maybe a little bit kind of like in here maybe that looks like my face, but it was a filter that it put it through to put it like into a pencil drawing or something like that. So this is the portrait that I'm going to be using to show you the guidelines about how to do a face. If you would like to do this with me, and I would suggest this to kind of do it along with me so that you're remembering the proportions with the movement of your hand. So if you just have a piece of paper and a pencil, or like anything to draw with, just so that you have like the guidelines about how to do this, because they are kind of like rules. So tell me if you've ever learned these proportions before, if you've ever learned the proportions of a face. I think a few of them are going to surprise you. I know the very first one surprised me the first time. I'm like, no, that is not right. That is not correct. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to draw a face on here, and I'm going to start with some guidelines, some lines to kind of make things in proportion. But the first proportion is your eyes. And I would like for you to go ahead and take just your fingers. You don't even need a ruler. But I want you to measure from the top of your head to the middle, like right through the middle of your eyes, and then from your eyes to your chin. I want you to measure from and I'm not going to even put up my fingers because I want you to tell me, where are your eyes on your face? Like, are they, like, where would you place your eyes? And I'm going to show you one in my portrait book that I've been working on. This is previously it was a planner. So it's a well-used planner that I'm doing these faces, I opened right up to it. And for the most part, I've been using the correct proportions. But there definitely have been more that people have called more whimsical, and where I've exaggerated the proportions, where I have made them larger or smaller or in a different place. And Sue says she still messes up the mouth. I've gone back and looked at a couple of my portraits in my book here, and yeah, the mouth is a little bit wonky. So we'll definitely work on the mouth. So if you measure your eyes, I was so surprised when someone first told me that you place your eyes in the middle. I'm like, they're not in the middle. They're up higher, right? They're up higher on my face. They're not in the middle of my face. But if you measure from the center of your eyes to the top of your head, we'll kind of go like right about at my hairline there. And then I take that same measurement and I measure from my eyes down to my chin. Here, I'll not smile. They're halfway in the middle of your head. If there was a horizontal line in the middle of your head from like the very top there, like to your skull, well, you know, you're without your hair, you know, they're in the middle. I never would have thought that that was the correct proportion, but I will show you this one where I did not put them in the middle. So this face right here, look, these eyes are probably more where they're not in the middle. But really, this is probably the proportion that if somebody would have asked me, I would have said, well, they're like 3/4 up your face. They're, you know, just a quarter down from the top of your head. And that's not the right proportion. So I've exaggerated those. I've made them in a different place, and it just makes it like more whimsical because it's not accurate. It's not following the guidelines. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this down here, and you can keep telling me where you measured, because it is going to be a little bit different for everyone. So let's see how I can get this face in here. Might not be able to get both really well. And then I hit the corner of my stand there. So I'll try to see if I can get, maybe if I back up just a little bit, so you can get both of these in there. So I'm going to basically just do the face. So I'm not going to even kind of go down into here that much. So it'll end up being probably a little bit larger. But what I like to do is to kind of hold my pencil back a little bit and kind of hold it just like really loosely. Like I'm not going to hold it up here. I kind of like to hold it back and just to be able to kind of move kind of like my whole arm. And what I would start with for the face shape is actually a circle. So I kind of do just kind of get like a circle kind of going in there. And I leave a little bit of space up here for the hair. And just kind of have a circle on there. I know it's probably hard to see, but the pencil lines are just really light, and I'll darken those kind of as I go along. And then what I like to do is just kind of do the chin kind of shape, and just have kind of just like that chin, you know, and I'll make it kind of look more like hers a little bit. But then what I would do is I kind of darken that a little bit. So it is kind of like an egg kind of a shape. And then I'll just leave those lines in there. So that's how I kind of do like a face kind of a shape in there. So the first thing that I do is I kind of, you can use a ruler if you want, but I just kind of like eyeball a horizontal line going across and I can kind of take my fingers and measure. It's about halfway. And then I do a vertical line down the middle. Because your face is fairly symmetrical. It's going to be the same on one side as it is the other. So that's for symmetrical. So I will kind of measure that. That's about in the middle there. So the eyes are the first proportion. And like I said, they're in the middle. So we know they're going to be kind of like on this line right here. And it's the middle of your eye is what crosses this line. So really your eye comes up above that middle line. And the way that you can think about the proportions of the eyes as if there's 5 eyes going across. So let me show you what I mean. So the eye shape is kind of like an almond kind of a shape. And let's just say that we have like one almond in the middle there. So you can actually kind of draw, and then you have the same almond shape. So there's 3, and then there would be one more that would fit on the sides. So can you see there's the middle almond shape? These are the eyes, and then there's another almond shape on either side. So that's how you can tell where those lines go. I guess if you wanted to, draw more guidelines, in there you could. But I just kind of like to think about the 5 eyes going across. So then I could darken. And this is just kind of a rough guideline. You can always make them more detailed for the portrait that you're actually drawing to make them look more, like these eyes that I'm doing here. So the eyes are the next ones here. And the other thing is the pupil, the round part in the eye. And I won't go too much into that, but most people draw the entire circle. Well, your eyeball is a ball. It's a sphere. But your eyelid and then the bottom part of your eye kind of covers some of that up. So really when you're drawing the pupil in there, I kind of like to think of it as parentheses. And you don't see the top and the bottom. So just kind of like these. So you're not seeing the top of the circle and you're not seeing the bottom of the circle. That's not really proportions necessarily, but it does kind of just give you an idea of how to see the eyes in there. The next thing that I like to do is the nose, and I kind of like to place where like the bottom of your nose is. The bottom of your nose is halfway between this middle line and your chin. So if you go ahead and measure, right? If we measure from our eyes to the bottom of our nose, and then from the bottom of our nose to about our chin, it's not quite even like halfway. It's kind of like from the bottom of your eyes and then to the bottom of your chin. So, and I'm talking, so it's not, but that bottom part of your nose is about halfway between. So that's kind of an easy proportion to remember that too, is that the bottom of your nose is about halfway between. So if you wanted to do kind of another guideline, it's almost going to be kind of where the bottom of my circle was. So if I kind of measure that, yep, that works out about right. So the bottom of my nose, I do as kind of a little smile, kind of like a little smiley line. And that just kind of places where my nose is. So I'm not going to do the details, but just so you know the proportions of where those are. Your mouth is actually halfway between the bottom of your nose and your chin. So you can do another line about halfway between there. And that is the center of your lips. So I like to do, I forget what that little indentation, like where your lips kind of go down. I kind of do it as like a V almost. and it's up above. So I kind of do like a little V right in there. And it's going to depend on, you know, if they're smiling, if they are, you know, have their mouth open, like all of those kinds of different things. But usually if they're smiling like this one is, if you follow up the corners of the mouth, they kind of hit like right about where the pupils are. So do you see kind of, her face is turned just a little bit. So it's right about like the middle of the pupil. This is the eye. Which one's which? The iris is the colored part, right? So I said pupil with these before. So if I just kind of do a dot in the middle and follow that down, that's about where the edges of my lips would be if I was smiling. So I will kind of just draw a line kind of down to there, and then depending on, you know, how much I want to be smiling, I will just kind of do, you know, just kind of like a smiley, just a curve, kind of connecting those. Those are the proportions, and you can see like I would probably want to have a little bit more kind of on the chin, and her face actually, you know, kind of is a little bit more rounded around here. So I would add, you know, I would kind of like refine that a little bit. So you can start changing the shape and how the face looks. I do kind of like to put right underneath the lips that little frowny line, a little frowny line, like kind of underneath the lips right there. And it just kind of shows like the curve of your chin in there a little bit. The other proportion that I want to show to you is the ears. So if you measure your ears, they are kind of between your eye, the center line, and your nose. So you already have those lines if you extended them out, so that the top of your ear is kind of right in the middle here. And then your earlobe is kind of like right where the base of your nose is. And when I first saw that proportion, I'm like, my ears are not that big. It felt like it was a really long ear. But if you measure, if you follow across the top of your ear all the way over, it's about in the middle of your eye, and the bottom of your ear is right about the bottom of your nose. So you can see the ears there are bigger. I feel like they're bigger than you think. The last proportion, I guess, is the hair. And the hair on this one is, you know, off to the side. The hair, I feel like, is what starts to add the personality. And you can kind of have a guideline of like where that part is, but you can see on this one, it's not in the middle. Oh, I had the hiccups. Let me take a drink of coffee. And if I look at this, it's down just a little bit from the top of the head. So what I like to do is kind of put a little dot, and then I can start, you know, making the curves. They kind of go over the face there, and then, you know, maybe this one kind of goes over the ears, and I still have one more proportion to show to you. And then the top of the hair actually is a little bit above the circle that you did. So I would, you know, kind of, if this is the part in my hair, I would kind of go up above that. And then I would just erase. I know that that's really light for you to see. I'll go ahead and make it a little bit darker. So here is the circle, and then the hairline is a little bit up above. So the eyes then, you know, feel like they're even a little bit pushed down, even a little bit more, I feel like, than halfway. The last proportion that I wanted to show to you actually was the neck. And I was kind of surprised about the neck too, because the neck, if you kind of follow down the face, the neck really starts about as far in as where the ears are. And it's just kind of a curve. And I don't have that exactly even there. But where the ears are, I just kind of follow down a little bit along the side of the face, and probably right about where I don't know, it kind of depends on about like where the mouth is. I'll kind of start, having that. This needs to be out just a little bit more probably, just to kind of make it even if I'm looking at the vertical line down the middle here. And maybe this just needs to come in a little bit. But I kind of follow down. So your neck really starts about, if I have my neck here, it starts about where the ears, about as far out as the ears do, right? So it just kind of goes from there and just kind of curves down a little bit. So I could take this face and kind of darken those lines, do a little pupil in there, and I could have a rough guideline of the proportions of the face. Now, that's really quick. It's kind of from an odd angle. The lines aren't very dark. However, what I have decided to do, because I've had so many people ask so many questions about the portraits that I've been doing in this book, 30 of them so far, is I have decided to have a workshop about portraits. So this proportions of the face is going to be one of the things that I teach in there, from overhead, zooming in, all of those kinds of things. And I'm going to be teaching the proportions of the face. I'm going to be teaching how to do all of the proportions, how to do the underpainting. If you saw the one that I did, let me get to it here. This one, I showed kind of a before picture of the image that I used and an underpainting that I used that was kind of all one color, different values. I'm going to teach how to do that. And then I'm going to teach from a profile view, like this one here, how to mix flesh colors and how to fill in the colors after you do the underpainting. So it's going to be a week-long workshop. And I'm going to show you actually, this is the image that we're going to be using. We're going to be using this image, and I'll be showing the proportions, how to change the colors and all those kinds of things. Learning the proportions, learning how to do the underpainting, and learning how to add the color over top of the underpainting. So it is going to be a painting. I probably will use some mixed media. I will just tell you, there's going to be some other things besides just paint. All of my portraits that I've done so far is other materials. Sue says that she has a hard time doing the side views, the profile views. That is exactly what I'm going to be teaching. So I will be teaching the proportions from a profile view, like this image here. So we're going to practice drawing this one. I'm going to show you how to do the underpainting with this one. And I'm going to show you how to mix the colors to be able to paint it in. By the end of the week, following the videos that I'm going to do, and we are going to have time on Zoom for you to ask questions, for you to practice, for you to be kind of working real time. By the end of that week, you will know from start to finish how to do a profile portrait. From the drawing to the underpainting to the actual painting to fill it in. This is going to be next week. So we're going to start next Monday. I'm going to be sending out an email with all of the details today. It is going to be a workshop like really I've never done before. I'm going to have some recorded videos like showing the proportions like this one. And then we're going to get together on Zoom 3 times next week so that you can be able to ask questions and kind of work through each one of the exercises. So my plan is to do the recorded videos and have those available in the morning, like early morning. And then in the afternoon at 2 p.m., we will do a Zoom on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. All of those will be recorded. They'll all be available for you to rewatch. And I will have all of the details and everything sent out in the email. But just know, because this is the very first time that I've done a workshop exactly like this, if I do a workshop like this again, which based on the amount of feedback that I've been getting of people wanting to learn how to do this, I would say there's probably going to be a next time. I will probably not do it as low as I'm going to be doing it this time. So I don't have the exact price yet. It'll be all the details in the email, but just know that this is going to be lower than I would probably do it next time. So just kind of know that. The material, the videos, all of that kind of thing are going to be in a Facebook group that will just last for a couple of weeks to be able to organize all of the content and the videos and everything in there, have the link for the Zoom and all of that kind of thing. And that'll be in a Facebook group that I'll open this week. I am going to have a workbook in there so that you will have all of the reference photos like this one, the proportions, all of the color, information, all of those kinds of things in the workbook that will be in there for you to download. So I'm really trying to build it out to have it be a workshop where you build your confidence in creating, underpainting, and painting in a portrait of a profile. I think that it's going to be very fulfilling. Is that like the right word? You're going to have, you're going to know the process. You're going to build that skill about how to draw a portrait from the side, a profile view. And I really feel like this is a skill that as you practice, you will get better. And you won't look at a portrait and think, I can't do that. You'll look at it and say, I'll try. I'll try because I know the proportions. And I'm going to teach you some different things that, honestly, I was telling someone the other day, if you really learn how to do this, and this is what I did way back, before I really started my classes in college, I took a class called Drawing and Seeing, and it was then that I learned I can draw anything. I can draw anything if I have a picture in front of me that I can look at as a reference. Or if I have an image, if I have something in front of me, if I have this coffee cup in front of me, I can draw it. And I'm going to teach you that skill and build the confidence in you that you can look at something like that and look at it and say, yeah, I can do that. I know how to do that. I'm going to try. And the more that you practice, you will get better at it. So that is my plan. I've had so many people asking, so many people interested in learning this skill. And I just want to repeat to you, it is a skill. It is not a talent. It is not a talent that I am doing these portraits. It is a challenge for me because I'm trying new things and trying different things in there and different views from the face and things like that. But it's a skill. And the more that you practice, the better you will get at it. And, oh, Sue, that is very cool. She a book of faces, and you can see the process, the progress. And I've had people tell me that on my portraits that I've been doing too. So I'm going to, as they say, like, peel back the curtain. I'm going to share a lot of these secrets with you. I'm going to share the techniques that I've been using, and I'll be on Zoom 3 times during the week where you can ask me questions and, just like get real-time feedback of what you're doing. And that's why I wanted to be able to do it on Zoom. So if you're on my email list, look for that email. I know that I usually send out an email on Monday evening for the replay of this video, but I will be sending out an email like sometime this afternoon specifically about that portrait workshop that I'm doing. So look for that. If you're not on my email list, just put email in the comments, whether you're watching on Facebook or you're watching the replay on YouTube, and I will make sure that I get you onto that list. I know on my YouTube videos in the description, there's always something there where you can get on my email list and usually get something in return. I'm trying to think of what the most recent thing is that I have over there. I don't know, but that's one way to get on my email list. So if you're not on my email list, you don't get my emails on Monday evenings for the replay of these videos of Art in the AM, then just put email in the comments and I will make sure that you get that. I'm really excited to be able to teach that. Teaching others how to be creative and build their skills is what I love to do. I love creating, but I love teaching other people how to build their skills and be creative even more. Like that just makes me smile and just makes me so happy to pass on that information. I really feel like that's the reason why I learn things, is so that I can pass them on to other people. So I would love to have you join me in that workshop. Look for the email. I'll be putting posts on my social media, so you will see those there too. And you'll have really through Sunday to sign up for it and be able to join us inside the group where all of the materials, links, and all of that will be in there. So I hope that I will see you there.